Whether you believe it or not, we are all familiar with the idea or the concept of the evolution of man. But there is one evolution that is undeniable, BMW's iconic M5. And to have all of them under one roof is something truly special. So BMW had an idea to take an executive saloon and give it sports car-like performance. So the E28 was born in 1985, the fastest production sedan around at the time, with a modified 3.5 litre BMW M1 engine, 213 kilowatts, 5-speed manual. This is one of the rarest BMWs around. There are only like 2,000 of them produced. And a nice story here in South Africa, the Roslyn plant actually had 96 kit assemblies of this car. It started here. It is iconic. The second generation, or E34, would end up being the last of the hand-built M5s. Also significant, it was the first one that was offered as a wagon. The Europeans loved it, but here in South Africa, we didn't even see it. The E39 saw a massive jump up not only in production volumes, but also in performance. This obviously now was mass produced on the same production line as the 5 Series. So sales are over 20,000, whereas the previous generation was down at 12,000. 5-litre V8 with a 6-speed manual Getrag gearbox, 294 kilowatts, insane. And we started seeing the introduction of things like your M Sport button, where suddenly the throttle responses and the handling feel were changed. This, a cult car, massively popular, big jump up. To date, the E60 is the biggest selling M5. It was around for one generation less than the previous model, but it still managed in sedan and wagon form to sell over 20,000 units. But all the talk was around the engine. For the first time ever, a V10 was put into a production car. It was an odd firing 5 litre. The performance was insane, 373 kilowatts, 520 Newton meters. The engine won numerous awards. And at this time, there was an association with BMW Sauber in Formula One. And that meant for the first time there was now a 7-speed sequential box, the SMG box. That's probably the thing that people hated the most about this great M5. From an E to an F, for the very first time in 2011, an M5 came out with forced induction, a 4.4 litre twin-turbo V8. Performance figure-wise, you couldn't argue. For the first time, an M5 was over 400 kilowatts and 680 Newton meters. It had a 7-speed dual-clutch DCT gearbox, but the car was heavy, and the purists, the lovers of M5s, weren't that impressed. And so the 6th generation M5 rolls into town with an all-wheel drive system. I guess that's just the natural evolution process for a performance saloon like this. The question is though, will the F90 recapture the essence of that M5 badge? But as consumers, we've also changed. All we're interested in is consuming information here and now. The fast facts are what are important. So here they are. This might be a weird thing to say, but this generation, the 6th of the M5s, is a really important one for BMW. I'll tell you why. Because they lost a bit of that thrill in the 5th generation. It was the one M5 that people actually criticized a lot. And it wasn't because of the fact that they'd now gone to turbo power. That wasn't the problem. It had just lost that soul, that essence of an M5. The front end and steering feel was really, really disappointing. The shove was incredible. Things have changed a little bit in this 6th generation. Still the same 4.4 litre twin turbo V8. Let me tell you, it's a kick in the gut stuff from a performance perspective and a shove. It is relentless. 441 kilowatts remain the same, but they've upped the ante in the torque game. 750 Newton meters of torque. That is massive. But the thing I'm not mentioning, and that's the thing you all want to know about, this is the first M5 that is all-wheel drive. Listen, it had to happen. I mean, the previous gen, with all that shove, all you were doing is changing tires at the rear every 2,000 kilometers and lighting up the traction light. You just couldn't get the power down. But driving on track, what I've really, really enjoyed is just how driver focused. It feels again, and that's what BMW always was. That's where they had the upper hand against the other German brands we won't mention, and they've got it back. I mean, I've been having so much fun. I've got it set into 4-wheel drive sport mode. I pushed the M1 button, got that set up, so traction is off. It allows me to play, and with all that torque available, a little short shift pulls the car out of a slide perfectly. What is nice is that this is a very clever all-wheel drive system that they've got, because essentially what they're giving you is the true original BMW rear-wheel drive only. So if I push my M2 button the way it's configured, it is going to be a rear-wheel drive, pure and simple. So for the purist, the real soulful driver out there, that is obviously a mode that he's going to love and going to use. But I think from an everyday user perspective, having all-wheel drive certainly makes a hell of a lot more sense. They've also changed the gearbox. If you remember, the previous gen was a DCT, the dual clutch 7-speed, but to deal with the all-wheel drive system and that additional torque, they've gone to a traditional auto box. It's a ZF 8-speed now, 1 extra, so that's going to help from an efficiency perspective, but it just deals with the all-wheel drive and the torque so much better. So I find it's less harsh, which sounds bizarre because on the racetrack you want to be knocking through the gear shift. But remember what this car is. It is a wolf in sheep's clothing. So for the guy driving around town, he's going to want to have the smoother change. And for those of you who had the previous gen that could never get your car into reverse, no longer a problem. So those are things that I think they've really looked at and answered the call, and a lot better. Great improvement. But man, this it is quick. Oh, sound. Doesn't sound too bad either. We've certainly been working on that. I know another complaint that it was all piped through the audio entertainment system, but it's got a nice raspy sound. It doesn't have the growl that people are going to always associate with like the E63s. The Mercs have that soundtrack down pat. But BMW has its own unique sound, and it's one that I quite enjoy. Certainly a lot more positives for this. I think I'm excited about an M5 again. They've really brought the soul back. I know you want the verdict. Is this a pucker genuine M5? Yes, it is. You can be super excited about this one. That all-wheel drive system actually works really well. The car has lost weight. I don't know how they've done that with an all-wheel drive system, but you've got that additional traction when you need it off the line, but the driving dynamics are back. The front end turn is back, and that makes me very excited. But don't forget, it is still an executive saloon. It's got to be comfortable, and with Comfort Plus mode and their obviously electronic dampening system, it's going to give you the best ride quality depending on those conditions. The price tag, 1.75 million, but what I do like is BMW has added a lot of specification as standard in this generation.